Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to FP1. And now let's have a chat about the 2020 driver market situation as we go into the summer break. Go back 1 year ago then and we had that massive news that Daniel Ricciardo will be leaving Red Bull Racing to join Renault, and that causes major shifts in the driver market. Could we see something similar this year? Well, you never know, we might just, and I'll get into why I think that in just a minute. But let's start with the world champions Mercedes. Now they're on track for a 6th World Championship in a row this year, which is incredible. I think breaks world records if it didn't last year. So it's absolutely pivotal then going into next year that they need 2 really good drivers. Now Hamilton's already pretty much confirmed in that seat. He's got a contract for next year. And yeah, there are a few rumours about him going to Ferrari, but let's be honest, he was always going to be staying with the world champions for another year. It's the best chance for him equaling Michael Schumacher's record and maybe even surpassing it in a few years' time. You never know. But it's the driver beside him that's got everyone's head scratching. So Toto Wolff's already said it's a straight fight now between Esteban Ocon and Valtteri Bottas. He's ruled out George Russell, saying there basically isn't the opportunity for him to learn really in that Mercedes seat, and he's got to spend another year, maybe in a lower down team, just to get his experience up before he can make a step to the big team. So regarding Ocon and Bottas then, Toto Wolff has been quoted saying it's stability and a great personality and a great driver versus giving youth a chance in the car with all the rewards and risks it can bring. We will start the process tomorrow and it's not going to be an easy one. So by tomorrow, Toto Wolff is referring to last Monday. So they've had about a week now to start looking at the data. Obviously it's going to take a lot more than that to make a final decision. This is such a big move in the driver market. But I think Ocon will end up getting that seat. Yes, Bottas had a fantastic start to the year. He had 2 wins and 9 podiums so far. I think it's his best start of the year ever in a season. But it's just the consistency. And I think Toto said at the German Grand Prix that Bottas's performances in Hockenheim and then Hungary would be massive in determining whether he gets that seat next year. Let's just review it. Was it 8 in Hungary, and then Hockenheim he crashed trying to get past Stroll of all people, which he could easily have done had he just waited a little bit longer. So really it's the consistency that's hurting Bottas here. Ocon, meanwhile, consistency-wise, is very, very good. Look at his first season. He didn't get a single DNF, I think, or I think maybe he went out once at the end of the season, but had a massive string of just finishes, which is brilliant for him. And I think that's really what Mercedes need right now. They need someone who can bring home consistent points, still be that second driver to Lewis Hamilton, because let's be honest, he will be staying as first driver next year regardless as to who gets that second seat, but just someone who can back him up and be a perfect wingman. And I think Ocon fits that bill really well. Yeah, he might be slightly less obedient than Bottas, but I can see him pulling in more points. And if you look at Bottas' season last year, especially in the second half, once that contract was confirmed, he really dropped off the pace. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year, but hey, we'll see. Now, Bottas, I think, will end up somewhere, and I'll get onto that in a minute, but he was quoted as saying, of course, when you're in that kind of situation, and when you still want to race in F1, you do need to have a plan B and possibly a plan C. Now, I'll get onto where Bottas goes in just a minute, as I said, but yeah, I don't think you'll be expecting it, let's just say that. But before that then, let's move on to Ferrari. Now, the last few races has been absolutely torrid for them, finishing, 60 seconds behind the Mercs and Max Verstappen in Hungary. And yeah, it's not looking great. They really need to have a better second half of the season. But I can't see the driver lineup changing. Leclerc has done really well given the circumstances. And Vettel, yeah, he's made mistakes, but he's under contract. And yeah, again, there were rumours saying, oh, he'll leave, oh, he'll go somewhere else. I think Dietrich Mateschitz also said at the start of the year that Vettel should go to a different team, have a fresh start. But no, I think he's under contract. He will stay at that team. And Leclerc has done a good enough job to get a contract extension. In fact, actually, I think he's already signed on to 2021. So yeah, he'll be there anyway. Now, Red Bull then is when we're going to have some more changes. And yeah, I put out a video about 2-3 weeks ago saying that I think Gasly would stay in that seat. That was before Hockenheim and Hungary. And yeah, let's just say my opinion's changed a little bit. Now, Verstappen, the only reason he would really leave that team would be to go to Ferrari or Mercedes. And as I've already stated, there's not going to be a free seat open there. So his best real option is to stay with Red Bull. I think there was a performance clause in his contract, but I'm pretty certain that that won't apply because Red Bull have just done really well, especially in the last few races. So Verstappen is guaranteed that team. Now, alongside him, Gasly will not be there. I think Gasly will be moved aside for one of the Toro Rosso drivers. And that, I think, will be Danny Kvyat. It'll be a great story. Obviously, he got dropped from Red Bull at the start of 2016 after a pretty awful start of the year and a few first lap crashes. But let's just go back to 2015 where Kvyat beat Daniel Ricciardo. And yeah, there are a few reliability failures to play a part in that as well. But at the end of the day, the stat sheets show Kvyat getting more points. And again, that's what Red Bull need. Gasly cannot pull in those points at the moment. And I think Horner was quoted as saying in Hungary, it's been a frustrating weekend for Pierre. The start wasn't great, the first lap wasn't great, and we shouldn't be racing the Saubers and McLarens. We need to be racing Ferraris and Mercedes, and everything we can do to try to help him do that, we will. Now, I think Pierre will still stay on to the end of the season. There have been a few rumours saying they'll drop him, but I do see Red Bull giving him the rest of the season just to see if he can turn it around. But frankly, I don't think he will. I think maybe he'll get a little bit closer to Verstappen by the end of the year, but it still won't be enough for him to retain that seat. And I think they will bring Kvyat back to the team. Maybe that's more as a stopgap until someone like Albon is ready, or Yuri Vips, or someone from F2 or F3 can step up to that team and has super license points. But I think Kvyat will do a good job in that car next year, and I think he's definitely matured a lot as a driver. Obviously, we had podium in Hockenheim, and yeah, that was a crazy race, but still, he kept his cool, which is something he wasn't necessarily brilliant at doing back in his first sort of stint in Formula 1. So yeah, Verstappen and Kvyat at Red Bull next year. That will be interesting. Now, Renault and Haas, I'm going to do as a package deal because I think one of their drivers is definitely confirmed in both cases. So Ricciardo will be at Renault next year, and despite being out of contract, Magnussen, I think, will be signed on again for Haas. But it's the second drivers, and there's two drivers which I think will end up in those two seats, but I can't quite place what way round they'll go. And those two drivers are Nico Hülkenberg and, maybe surprisingly, Valtteri Bottas. So obviously, as I said, he has some sort of plan B or plan C in place. And I can really see Renault and Haas being two of the main teams that plan or plan B or plan C could be referring to. Now, Hülkenberg has said that he's most likely going to be at Renault next year, but then comments from Cyril Abiteboul a few races prior to that seemed to contradict that and said that, well, we're going to be looking around the grid. And could I see them striking a deal with Mercedes to get Ocon or Bottas or whoever doesn't get that Mercedes seat? Yeah, maybe. I mean, both of them are good drivers. Ocon's young and French, so that'll fit the brand really well. And Bottas is no bad driver by any means. So he would definitely be brilliant alongside Ricciardo. It'd be interesting to see Ricciardo and Bottas together. That'd be a very good pairing, a very interesting pairing as well at Renault. But obviously, if Hülkenberg didn't get that Renault seat, where could he go? And that's why I think Haas could be an option. The only thing that's really stopping putting Hülkenberg in that Haas next to Magnussen is the history between the two. Obviously, there was the whole suck my balls comment, I think, last year in Hungary. And yeah, the two haven't really got along since Magnussen was practically replaced by Hülkenberg at Renault only a few years ago. So yeah, that is why I'm going to put Ricciardo and Hülkenberg at Renault, and then Magnussen and Bottas at Haas. Bit of an out of left field choice. Maybe Haas isn't the first place people would think Bottas would go, but I can't see there being any other real options on the grid, and I'll explain why as I get through this video. Maybe Williams, but I don't think Bottas would want to step down from the top team to the slowest team on the grid. And yeah, he has history with Williams, but I think they've got another driver planned, which is what I'll get onto in a minute. So yeah, let's go Bottas in that Haas car for 2020. So Racing Point then. So Stroll, he's had an alright season. I don't think he deserves a seat next year. But of course, with Daddy's money coming in, it was pretty much guaranteed from the start of the season that he will pretty much end his career at Racing Point. The only time he will leave is when that money runs out or funding is pulled from that team. Now, the second seat has been hotly contested. So Sergio Perez is obviously in at the moment, and there were a few links earlier in the season linking him to Haas. But coming into the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, he said he does want to commit his long-term future to Racing Point. And so I think that will happen. I think he also said the deal was being finalised. So I'm going to put Stroll and Perez in that Racing Point. Perez has done a great job this year. Like, he's not been a particularly standout driver, but he's not been a bad driver at all. Especially on qualifying pace, he's been absolutely thrashing Stroll. I think Stroll's had, one weekend where he's got out of Q1, and Perez has been in Q2, maybe even Q3 a few times. So yeah, I think he's definitely good to help also teach Stroll as well, who's, let's be honest, still quite a new driver to Formula 1 and still needs to be learning a little bit. So I think that'd be a good pairing, Stroll and Perez in Racing Point next year. Now, McLaren is a done deal. We knew during the British Grand Prix that Norris and Sainz have been guaranteed for that team. And to be fair, I can't see an issue with that. They've both done a fantastic job. I think Sainz got another P5 again in Hungary. Yeah, and Norris would have been up there as well had he not had some sort of pit stop issue. I think there's a wheel gun that failed during the pit stop. So yeah, I'm perfectly happy with those two being in there. They're going to do a great job for McLaren, who finally seem like they're picking up ground and moving up the field. So Toro Rosso then. So there's obviously going to be a seat there if Kvyat is going to Red Bull. And Albon's not done a bad job at all this year, so I would put him in that seat straight away. Definitely give him another year. I think if Kvyat is going to be used as a stopgap, I can see Albon being put in that Red Bull for 2021 or maybe 2022 if Kvyat doesn't perform and if Albon does do a fantastic job in that Toro Rosso car this year. Now, the second seat, it's a difficult one. So if we think back to the last time Red Bull dropped a driver from its main team, that was Daniel Kvyat at the Spanish Grand Prix in 2016. He went back to Toro Rosso. Now, normally, I wouldn't see them doing it again with Gasly, and that's just because they probably won't end up promoting him back to the Red Bull team, given how torrid his season has been. And maybe I'm contradicting myself with it with Kvyat, but if you compare Kvyat's season with Red Bull and Gasly's season so far, Kvyat was doing a lot better in a car that was, I think, their worst since 2008 or something in that 2015 season. So Gasly's been struggling, and normally I would not put him in that second seat. But the thing we need to look at is super license points and who can actually take that second seat at Toro Rosso. Now, Juri Vips in Formula 3, I think, is the next driver who we'll see step up to that Toro Rosso team, but he hasn't got the super license points. Yeah, there was a few talking points about Pato O'Ward, who's currently in IndyCar, but I can see him staying there now. I think those rumours have sort of died down, and I think he'll just stay where he is. So really, if we think about it, there's no one that can really take that second seat apart from someone like Pierre Gasly. So I'm going to go for Albon and Gasly in that Toro Rosso next year. But if Gasly continues to underperform, maybe don't count him out on not seeing that 2020 season out fully. So let's move on then to Alfa Romeo. Now, Kimi Räikkönen signed a 2-year contract in 2018, so he's pretty much guaranteed. And he's done a fantastic job for that team. I mean, he was running third at one point in the German Grand Prix. Just did a brilliant job and has been picking up consistent points for the team. So I would have no reason to really drop him. Probably one of his best seasons in the last 5 years, I'd say. Now, Ferrari have control of that second seat, and they can put whoever they want. And again, it comes down to super license points. The only driver I can really see them putting in there is Mick Schumacher at the moment. And one, I think he needs more time to just mature in Formula 2. Yeah, okay, he got his first win in the series over in Hungary, but he still needs time just to make sure he's in the right mindset to take that Formula 1 seat. And two, Giovinazzi's not done a horrible job. Obviously, a bit of a shaky start to the year. Had a few incidents, but he's started to come alive again, started to pick up points a lot more regularly, and I can see them giving him another year. So I'm going to go for Räikkönen and Giovinazzi in that Alfa Romeo seat. So finally then, let's talk about Williams. Now, Russell's done a fantastic job, given the circumstances and that car not being particularly competitive. Look at Hungary, for example. I think he qualified P16, nearly got out of Q1 for the first time this year, and then had a really good race as well. So he's pretty much guaranteed. I think if Mercedes wanted to, they would put him in that Racing Point car. But like I said, I think Stroll's guaranteed in there and Perez is finalising a deal and they're happy with both of those drivers. So I can't see there being any real spots that Mercedes can influence further up on the grid. So they will keep him at Williams next year. And you never know, Williams might start their resurgence next year. I can probably see the team more focusing on 2021 and trying to get that head start like they did in 2014. But we'll have to see. Now, that second seat, and as much as I hate to say it, Robert Kubica has struggled this year. And it's been a fantastic return story, but he's just not had the pace. I think he's been last in all but 2 or 3 of the races on the track this year, bar people who have had problems. So I can't see Williams keeping him. There are rumours that he could get dropped mid-season. I think they'll wait till he gets to the end of the season and then drop him, but I hate to say it, Kubica will not be in that car next year. Now, as to who replaces him, I haven't put any rookies on the grid this year, but now that's going to change because I'm going to put current F2 title contender Nicholas Latifi in that Williams seat. Partly because he's one of those drivers in F2 that can actually afford a super license for Formula 1, and secondly because he's done a very good job, several race wins already, and really putting the fight on to Nick De Vries, and I think I can see him taking that F2 championship this year. I think that'll be an interesting pairing. Russell obviously a year into Formula 1 at this point, and Latifi, the rookie, coming and doing his first few races, but I think it'll be close between those two, and it'll be very, very interesting to see how the young Canadian does. So those are just my thoughts then on the 2020 line. And you'll notice there's only one driver I haven't included from this year's season going into next year, and that is Romain Grosjean. He's had a bit of a torrid season for Haas so far, collided too much with his teammate, and not all of those times have been his fault in fairness, but I can see him being the one to go. Obviously, one rookie as well, Nicholas Latifi, which will be interesting to see how he does. But really, the whole point of this video is to start discussion. I want you guys to tell me what your drive predictions will be. If Bottas gets dropped for Ocon, where do you think he could end up? Was I right in saying Renault or Haas, or could it be somewhere else? But yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and of course subscribe for more weekly Formula 1 content. And I will see you guys in the next one.